Atticus. Like modern turtles, Atticus were turtles that could pull their heads into their shells. Atticus most likely ate plants, but may have also fed on small animals. Alamosaurus. Alamosaurus was a huge, long-necked dinosaur. It was one of the last sauropods that lived in the Mesozoic era. Alamosaurus was a plant-eating sauropod dinosaur that lived in North America during the Cretaceous time period. Allosaurus. Allosaurus had a small horn over each eye. The horns may have helped Allosaurus to recognize others of its kind. Allosaurus was one of the dominant carnivores in North America that lived in the Jurassic, many millions of years before Tyrannosaurus rex. Amargasaurus. Amargasaurus was a giant sauropod with 2 rows of spines down its back. The spines may have been attached to one another by skin, creating the appearance of a huge sail on its back. Amargasaurus was a sauropod. Sauropods were 4-legged herbivores known for their small heads, big long bodies, and large appetites. Ankylosaurus. Ankylosaurus was covered from head to toe with bony armor. The bony club at the end of its tail was used in defending against predators. Ankylosaurus was a large and heavy quadruped, which means it walked on 4 legs. It was also a herbivore, which means it only ate the green stuff, plants. Apatosaurus. Apatosaurus was a giant dinosaur that had to eat huge amounts of food every day to support its size. Apatosaurus had chisel-like teeth located in the front of its jaws, which it used to grab plant food. A lot of plant food. Archaeopteryx. Archaeopteryx, sometimes called first bird, was a small meat-eating dinosaur that lived in the late Jurassic time period. Archaeopteryx was about the size of a modern-day crow and likely fed on a diet of small animals, including fish and insects. Archelon. Like other sea turtles, Archelon had to come out of the water to make a nest on the beach and lay its eggs. It would then return to the ocean, leaving the young turtles to fend for themselves. Like giant sea turtles today, Archelon may have fed on jellyfish. Argentinosaurus. Argentinosaurus was bigger than 10 tyrannosaurs put together. Argentinosaurus is the largest plant-eating dinosaur ever discovered from the late Cretaceous time period. It was found in Argentina, South America. Avosaurus. Avosaurus are known to be from the Rocky Mountains and the humid low-lying swamps, lakes, and river basins of the western interior seaway. This flying dinosaur was probably a carnivore, eating small animals like lizards and mammals. Beelzebufo. Beelzebufo was a particularly large species of prehistoric frog from the late Cretaceous period, found in what is now Madagascar. Perhaps the largest frog to ever exist, it may have grown to over 16 inches and almost 10 pounds in size. Beelzebufo was a carnivore that ate relatively large prey, such as lizards, mammals, and perhaps even small dinosaurs. Brachiosaurus.
Brachiosaurus is a plant-eating dinosaur from the late Jurassic time period that possibly lived through the early Cretaceous time period too. Brachiosaurus fossils were found in both North America and Africa. This enormous sauropod was very slow-moving, slower than any herbivore of its time.
Brachiosaurus, like other plant-eating animals, had broad teeth that would have been great for stripping vegetation off trees. Carcharodontosaurus. Carcharodontosaurus was a carnivore and probably fed on both small and large dinosaurs. Carcharodontosaurus was a carnivore and probably fed on both small and large dinosaurs. Castrocauda. The name Castrocauda means beaver tail because it had a flattened tail like a beaver and likely used it for swimming, much as modern-day beavers do. Castrocauda was an omnivore. It mostly ate meat, but likely ate plants as well. Changuraptor. Like other microraptors, Changuraptor had feathers on its hind legs, making it look like it had two sets of wings. Changuraptor was a predatory dinosaur and probably ate small prey like lizards, birds, fish, and other small creatures. Chirostenotes. Chirostenotes means narrow hand because it had 3 long clawed fingers on each hand. Chirostenotes was an omnivore, which means they ate both meat and plants, just like many humans. They ate plants, eggs, small animals, and insects. Similestes. Similestes was an early mammal that lived in the woodlands of North America and Africa during the Cretaceous time period. The name Similestes means bug thief, as they likely fed on bugs and insects. Confuciusornis. Confuciusornis was a crow-sized bird with a toothless beak and a very long tail of feathers. Confuciusornis were herbivores, surviving on plants, nuts, and berries. Scientists believe this based on the fact that Confuciusornis did not have teeth in their beaks. Corythosaurus. Corythosaurus had a crest on its head that may have been used to communicate with other Corythosaurus. Corythosaurus was a herbivore, and like other hadrosaurs or duck-billed dinosaurs, it had a beak with hundreds of small, flat teeth in the back, perfect for grinding up plants. Cretoxyrhina. Cretoxyrhina, also known as Ginzu shark, was a shark that lived in the western interior sea during the late Cretaceous time period. Its teeth grew up to 2 inches long. Cretoxyrhina ate large bony fish and occasionally fed on giant reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs. Its teeth have been found embedded in the bones of other animals. Cryolophosaurus. Cryolophosaurus was discovered on the southern continent of Antarctica. Today, Antarctica is extremely cold and icy, but during the age of the dinosaur, Antarctica was much warmer with lush green forest. Cryolophosaurus was a large meat-eating dinosaur that lived during the Jurassic time period. During the Jurassic, Antarctica was closer to the equator and was part of a large continent called Pangaea. Daspletosaurus. Daspletosaurus lived in North America during the late Cretaceous period. It is closely related to its much larger cousin, Tyrannosaurus. Daspletosaurus was a meat-eating tyrannosaur. Like T-Rex, it too was the top predator of its time, though it lived long before Tyrannosaurus rex. Deinonychus. Deinonychus was a feathered dinosaur that was about 11 feet long. Deinonychus were carnivorous predators. Their skulls had powerful jaws lined with almost 60 sharp blade-like teeth. These teeth and their big toe claws were useful for hunting and eating prey. Deinosuchus. Deinosuchus and all other crocodiles are reptiles, but they aren't dinosaurs. In fact, birds are the closest relatives of dinosaurs living today. Deinosuchus probably hunted a variety of animals, including turtles, fish, and even dinosaurs. Dilophosaurus. Dilophosaurus had a pair of thin, bony crests on the top of its head that was probably used for showing off to other Dilophosaurus. Dilophosaurus was likely a great hunter, but like most carnivores, it was probably a scavenger too, eating meat from animals that it did not kill. Dimetrodon. Although Dimetrodon looks like a dinosaur in many ways, it isn't a dinosaur at all. In fact, it's more closely related to mammals like dogs, cats, or even humans like you. Dimetrodon was a carnivore that probably ate insects and small animals. Diplodocus. Diplodocus lived in the Jurassic time period and had one of the longest necks of any dinosaur. Rather than reaching up high in the trees like a giraffe, this sauropod probably held its neck out nearly straight, eating plants closer to the ground. Dreadnoughtus. Dreadnoughtus, whose name means fears nothing, was huge. In fact, it was one of the largest land animals ever to walk the earth. Dreadnoughtus was an herbivore. Its long neck allowed it to access a wide variety of vegetation, but its huge body means it probably had to eat all the time. Ephygia. Ephygia was a close relative of modern-day crocodiles, but unlike crocodiles, Ephygia moved around on its hind legs, which likely made it a very fast runner. Ephygia had a beak and no teeth, making it hard to tell what it ate. Einiosaurus. Einiosaurus was a short-frilled ceratopsian dinosaur, which is the group that includes all horned dinosaurs. Einiosaurus was a large quadrupedal plant-eating dinosaur that lived in North America during the Cretaceous time period. Elasmosaurus. Elasmosaurus most likely gave birth to its young live, like modern-day dolphins or whales. Elasmosaurus had sharp teeth and a strong bite. It ate fish and other sea animals. Enantiornithine. Enantiornithines were a type of bird that lived throughout the late Jurassic and Cretaceous time periods. Enantiornithines were omnivores that thrived on a variety of available berries, fruit, bugs, and meat. Eoraptor. Eoraptor lived during the Triassic period and is one of the oldest known dinosaurs. It belongs to a group of dinosaurs called theropods, which also includes the Tyrannosaurus. Eoraptor were about 3 feet tall and weighed about 20 pounds. Standing on their 2 hind legs and 3-toed feet, they were very fast runners, which helped them catch prey. Euoplocephalus. Euoplocephalus was a tank-like dinosaur covered in bony armor, with a club at the end of its tail that was probably used to defend against the meat-eating tyrannosaur. Euoplocephalus was a plant-eating dinosaur that lived in the Cretaceous time period. It was a smaller version of its armor-plated relative, Ankylosaurus. Fabrosaurus. Fabrosaurus was a plant-eating dinosaur that lived in Africa during the Jurassic time period. Fabrosaurus was a plant-eater, or herbivore. Fruitifossor. Fruitifossor was a chipmunk-sized mammal from the late Jurassic that resembled a modern-day armadillo or anteater. Like those animals, Fruitifossor probably fed mostly on insects, like termites and cockroaches. Fruitifossor was an insectivore and probably fed mostly on insects like termites and cockroaches. Gallimimus. Gallimimus was a theropod dinosaur that lived in Asia during the Cretaceous time period. Paleontologists aren't sure what Gallimimus ate. Some think they were herbivores, feeding only on plants. Others think they were omnivores, eating small animals and plants. Giganotosaurus. Giganotosaurus was one of the largest known meat-eating dinosaurs. It was more than 40 feet long. Giganotosaurus time period. Fossils of Giganotosaurus have been in the Patagonia region of Argentina. Glyptops. Even though Glyptops is an ancient turtle dating back to the late Jurassic and early Cretaceous periods, Glyptops probably lived a life similar to that of modern turtles. It lived in or near water and ate plants, insects, and fish. Glyptops was an omnivore. It ate plants, insects, and fish. Goniopholis. Goniopholis lived in what is now North America and is believed to be a direct ancestor of modern-day alligators and crocodiles. Goniopholis was an omnivore that ate plants and small animals. Hadrosaurus. Hadrosaurus was a duck-billed hadrosaur that lived in North America during the Cretaceous time period. Hadrosaurus was a plant eater, or herbivore. Haplocaris. Haplocaris was a relatively small dinosaur that displayed many bird-like features, such as feathers and clawed hands. Haplocaris was a carnivore, or meat eater. Hesperornis. Hesperornis were birds that lived during the late Cretaceous time period. They were very unique animals because they had wings, but didn't really fly. They mostly swam underwater. Hesperornis had teeth in their beak, which scientists believe helped them catch and eat fish. Ichthyosaurus. Because of their fish-like bodies, Ichthyosaurus almost certainly stayed in the water. But like modern whales, they still breathed air and lacked gills. Ichthyosaurus was a carnivore, whose diet was probably made up of fish and squid. Iguanodon. One of the first dinosaurs discovered, Iguanodon was a large dinosaur that lived in Europe during the early part of the Cretaceous time period. Iguanodon was a large plant-eating dinosaur. Jaxartosaurus. Jaxartosaurus is closely related to other crested hadrosaurs, like Corythosaurus and Parasaurolophus. Like other hadrosaurs, Jaxartosaurus ate plants. Jehilornis. Jehilornis was a bird that lived in Asia during the Cretaceous time period. Unlike birds living today, Jehilornis had teeth and may have been a seed eater. Kentrosaurus. Kentrosaurus was a relatively small armored stegosaur dinosaur from the late Jurassic time period. Kentrosaurus was a slow-moving plant eater that was found in Africa. Kentrosaurus had a tiny brain, one of the smallest known for a dinosaur. Cosmoceratops. Cosmoceratops was a plant-eating ceratopsian dinosaur from the Cretaceous time period. Its name means ornamented horned face. Like other ceratopsians, Cosmoceratops was a herbivore. Lambeosaurus. Lambeosaurus is a duck-billed dinosaur with a hollow head crest made of bone. The crest was probably used to make sounds for communicating with other Lambeosaurus. This herbivore probably stood on its hind legs while reaching into the conifer trees to munch on pine cones and pine needles. Lizotosaurus. Lizotosaurus was a small 3-foot-long dinosaur from the early Jurassic time period. Like many other plant-eating dinosaurs, Lizotosaurus had a beak in the front of its mouth and back teeth that were used to slice up plants. Maiasaura. Maiasaura was a duck-billed dinosaur named the Good Mother because some paleontologists think it looked after its babies after they hatched. Maiasaura was a large plant-eating dinosaur that lived in North America during the late Cretaceous time period. Mashikasaurus. Mashikasaurus was a small dinosaur known only from the island of Madagascar and was the size of a big dog. The lower front teeth of Mashikasaurus pointed forward and slightly up rather than straight up, like in other dinosaurs. It likely survived on a diet of small animals, fish, birds, lizards, and snakes. Megalosaurus. Megalosaurus lived in what is now present-day Europe. This big carnivore probably hunted a variety of plant-eating dinosaurs. Megaraptor. Megaraptor had huge jaws lined with sharp teeth and curved claws on its hands that were probably used to catch prey. Megaraptor was a large meat-eating theropod. Michelinosaurus. Some Michelinosaurus were apparently deep divers, diving more than 6 miles below the ocean surface. Michelinosaurus was a carnivore, perhaps diving to great depths to feed on other sea animals. Microraptor, one of the smallest dinosaurs ever to be discovered. Microraptors were only between 1 and 3 feet long and weighed less than 3 pounds. This Cretaceous carnivore may have lived mostly in the trees, using its sharp teeth to feed on small animals and even insects. Mosasaurus. Mosasaurus was huge, growing up to 50 feet long. That's bigger than a T-Rex. Mosasaurus probably ate a variety of animals such as fish, turtles, ammonites, maybe even smaller mosasaurs. Necrolestes. Necrolestes had a big snout, a short body, and wide legs that helped it dig deep underground. Necrolestes was an insectivore and probably burrowed in the dirt to find worms and small insects to eat. Nemicalopterus. The Nemicalopterus probably used its curved claws to perch on branches high up in the tree canopy. Nemicalopterus was an insectivore and probably hunted insects by gliding around the tree canopy. Nodosaurus. Nodosaurus was a plant-eating armored dinosaur or ankylosaur that lived in North America during the Cretaceous time period. Its name means knobbed lizard. Nodosaurus was a herbivore, eating plants that grew close to the ground. Ophthalmosaurus. Ophthalmosaurus was a marine reptile that lived in the Jurassic time period. It belongs to a group of carnivores called ichthyosaurs, which look a lot like dolphins. Ophthalmosaurus probably ate a variety of animals like fish and squid. Ornithomimus. Ornithomimus was a bipedal dinosaur that lived during the late Cretaceous time period in western North America. Scientists think that Ornithomimus was most likely an omnivore. Oryctodromeus. Oryctodromeus used its arms and snout to dig burrows for protection and care for their young. Burrow Oryctodromeus was a fast-running herbivore. Oviraptor. Oviraptor was a feathered theropod dinosaur that lived in Asia during the Cretaceous time period. Its name means egg thief. Oviraptor probably fed on a variety of small animals, and some paleontologists think it ate plants too. Pachycephalosaurus. Pachycephalosaurus lived alongside Triceratops and Tyrannosaurus rex near the end of the Cretaceous time period. Pachycephalosaurus was a plant eater, or herbivore. Paleobatrachus. Paleobatrachus was a large frog that lived in the water. By comparing the bones of this ancient frog to those frogs living today, scientists think it can hold its breath for a long time. Paleobatrachus were carnivores. They mainly feasted on small fish and bugs, using their long, sticky tongue to catch prey as they went past. Parasaurolophus. Parasaurolophus is one of the rarer duckbills, with a large, elaborate crest on its head that functioned as a visual recognition of its species. Parasaurolophus was a plant-eating duck-billed dinosaur that lived in western North America during the late Cretaceous. Patinosaurus. Patinosaurus lived in the late Triassic time period and are known to have lived in what is now Italy. The fossils found indicate that it had very lightweight bones and single-cusp teeth, which it used to chew bugs. Pliosaurus. Pliosaurus had a streamlined head and 4 flippers for navigating through the water. It cruised slowly through the water using only 2 flippers and 4 when it needed to hunt quickly for prey. This giant predator probably hunted and ate many different kinds of animals, including fish, squid, ammonites, and other seagoing reptiles. Polycotylus. Polycotylus was a large marine reptile, but unlike many other reptiles which lay eggs to have their babies, Polycotylus actually gave birth to live babies in the water, just like modern-day sea creatures such as whales and dolphins. Polycotylus was a carnivore that ate fish. Proganochelys. Proganochelys was believed to be about 3.3 feet in length. Other turtles, such as the leatherback sea turtle that exists today, can grow over 6 feet long and can weigh over 2,000 pounds. This ancient turtle lived on land most of the time and probably fed on a variety of plants. Protoceratops. Protoceratops was a ceratopsian dinosaur that lived in Asia during the Cretaceous time period. Protoceratops was a plant-eating herbivore. Protopteryx. Protopteryx was a starling-sized bird from the Cretaceous period that lived in what is now China's Hebei province. It was a bird with teeth that had long, scale-like feathers. Protopteryx was a carnivore, or meat-eater. Pteranodon. Pteranodons were found in North America and England and were thought to live during the late Cretaceous time period. This fish-eating flying reptile was one of the largest pterosaurs to ever live. It had a wingspan of up to 30 feet, which is about the length of a school bus. Pterodaustro. Despite being able to fly and having a top wingspan of 8 to 9 feet, Pterodaustro was not a bird. It was a pterosaur, which is a flying reptile, making it a distant cousin of the pteranodon. Pterodaustro was probably a carnivore, eating different kinds of crustaceans like crab, shrimp, lobsters, and crayfish. Tilidus. Tilidus was about the size of a squirrel and was probably a great tree climber, just like squirrels are today. Tilidus was an omnivore, living on a diet of fruits, nuts, and bugs. Quantosaurus. Quantosaurus is a 2-legged plant-eating dinosaur that lived in Australia during the Cretaceous time period. Quantosaurus was a plant-eater, or herbivore. Chonchosaurus. Compared to other tyrannosaurs such as T-Rex, Chonchosaurus had a long snout, earning it the nickname Pinocchio Rex. Chonchosaurus was a carnivore. Even though it was a tyrannosaur, its jaw was likely weaker than the T-Rex's, so they probably ate different prey. Quetzalcoatlus. Quetzalcoatlus was a giant pterosaur that lived in what is now North America during the late Cretaceous time period. Quetzalcoatlus might have eaten a variety of animals that it found or hunted on the ground, including amphibians, reptiles, and rodent-like mammals. Raptor Rex. Raptor Rex was a meat-eating theropod that lived in Asia during the Cretaceous time period. This little carnivore had powerful jaws and was probably an excellent hunter of small dinosaurs. Rabdodon. Rabdodon was a two-legged plant-eating dinosaur that lived in Europe during the Cretaceous time period. Rabdodon was a plant-eater, or herbivore. Rhamphorhynchus. The jaws of Rhamphorhynchus were full of needle-like teeth, which were angled forward, with a curved, sharp, beak-like tip lacking teeth, indicating a diet mainly of fish and insects. Rhamphorhynchus was a carnivore that ate a diet mainly of fish and insects. Rheosaurus. Rheosaurus was a very large dinosaur for the late Triassic period. In fact, it is believed to be one of the largest animals in its home of South America during its time. Rheosaurus was a herbivore that ate only plants. Sonajay. Sonajay, like other snakes, probably sensed its prey by feeling vibrations on the ground and sticking its tongue out to smell the air. Like other snakes, Sonajay was a carnivore. It ate small animals, including baby dinosaurs. Sauroposeidon. Sauroposeidon looks a lot like a giraffe. And just like giraffes, this huge dinosaur probably used its long neck to eat leaves high up in the trees. Sauroposeidon was a large plant-eating dinosaur. Sauronitholestes. Sauronitholestes was a small theropod dinosaur that lived during the Cretaceous time period. Its name means lizard bird thief. Sauronitholestes probably ate little animals like lizards, mammals, and birds. Shonosaurus. Shonosaurus was a giant ichthyosaur, a kind of marine reptile that lived in the Triassic time period. As one of the largest carnivores on land or sea, Shonosaurus was a slow-moving sea creature. It probably ate animals like squid and fish. Cynovinator. Cynovinator is a close relative of Troodon. Cynovinator probably ate small animals like lizards, mammals, and birds. Spinosaurus. Spinosaurus lived in Africa during the late Cretaceous time period. Spinosaurus was a carnivore. It had a long face like a crocodile with plenty of teeth, perfect for catching fish and other animals. Stegosaurus. Stegosaurus had large bony plates on its back. Some paleontologists think that Stegosaurus used its plates to warm up on cold days and cool down on hot days. Stegosaurus was a herbivore with a horny beak instead of front teeth, and a set of flat teeth in the back of its jaw that were perfect for grinding up vegetation. Stygimoloch. Stygimoloch had a super thick skull. Some scientists think that this animal used its head to bump the sides of other Stygimoloch. Stygimoloch was a herbivore that walked on two legs and lived in the late Cretaceous time period of what is now North America. Styracosaurus. Styracosaurus was a ceratopsian dinosaur. It was a giant plant eater that lived in the late Cretaceous time period in North America. Like other ceratopsians, the jaws of the Styracosaurus had a strong beak up front and plenty of slicing teeth behind, perfect for cropping and slicing plant food. Therizinosaurus. Therizinosaurus is a large feathered dinosaur from the Cretaceous, with short stubby legs, pot belly, long arms, and hands tipped with huge claws. It was one of the most bizarre-looking dinosaurs. Using their long arms and claws to reach out and cut plants, Therizinosaurus were herbivores. Some scientists also believe that their claws were used for self-defense. Triceratops. Triceratops was a quadrupedal dinosaur that lived in western North America at the very end of the Cretaceous time period. Triceratops had a large parrot-like beak suited to slicing through vegetation like thick-branched tree limbs. It had hundreds of teeth in the rear of the jaws for cutting up lots of tough plants. Troglobite. A troglobite is a creature whose body is specially adapted for living in deep caves without any light. Troglobites, creatures such as beetles, crickets, spiders, crabs, and fish, each have their own diets, but must depend on the food available around them in deep caves for their survival. Troodon. Troodon was a small bipedal dinosaur with a big brain, which probably made it one of the smartest dinosaurs around. Unlike most dinosaurs feeding on either plants or meat, Troodon was most likely an omnivore, eating both plants and meat. Being an omnivore means it was easier to find a meal. Tyrannosaurus. With arms so tiny, Tyrannosaurus probably used its head to grab its prey. Tyrannosaurus was a bipedal carnivore and was one of the biggest predators ever to live on land. This meant it had to eat a lot to survive. A grown-up could eat 500 pounds of meat in a single bite. Utahraptor. Utahraptor was a fast-running theropod that lived in North America during the Cretaceous time period. With its long, running legs and a huge claw on each foot, Utahraptor would have been an excellent predator. Velociraptor. Velociraptor is a small feathered dinosaur that lived during the Cretaceous. It's only been found in Asia and lived in a desert habitat with sand dunes. Velociraptor is derived from the Latin words for quick and robber. It was given this name by scientists because it was a very fast carnivore. Velaticotherum. Velaticotherum was an amazing mammal, like modern-day flying squirrels. It could glide from tree to tree or from trees to the ground. Velaticotherum was probably an insectivore, which means that it ate insects. It also may have been nocturnal, or most active at night. Oneonosaurus. Oneonosaurus was a pachycephalosaur dinosaur that lived in Asia during the Cretaceous time period. Oneonosaurus was a plant eater, or herbivore. Xenotarsosaurus. Xenotarsosaurus was a theropod dinosaur that lived in South America during the Cretaceous time period. Xenotarsosaurus probably hunted small dinosaurs and other small animals. Yangchuanosaurus. Yangchuanosaurus was a theropod dinosaur that lived in Asia. With plenty of sharp teeth in their jaws, they would have been amazing predators. Yangchuanosaurus probably hunted plant-eating dinosaurs like stegosaurs and young sauropods. Zhejiangopterus. Like its close cousin Quetzalcoatlus, Zhejiangopterus was a giant flying reptile or pterosaur. Like other pterosaurs, Zhejiangopterus dove into the water and caught fish. While they were larger than other pterosaurs, Zhejiangopterus had similar bone structure, just with longer necks and heads. Zygongosaurus. Zygongosaurus was a sauropod dinosaur that lived in Asia during the Jurassic time period. Zygongosaurus was a large plant-eating sauropod, a herbivore. Zupasaurus. Zupasaurus is one of the earliest known theropod dinosaurs, dating back to the late Triassic period, over 200 million years ago. Zupasaurus was a carnivore, or meat eater.